Aloha and welcome to my channel. I'm JayDreamerZ. Thanks for joining me today. Today's presentation is entitled Ezekiel's Wheels, the Ophanim, and Plasmoids, where we're going to be talking about and examining a mysterious account in the Bible from a prophet that lived over 2,500 years ago named Ezekiel. Ezekiel was able to have special visions or experiences that were given to him by God, according to the Bible. One of those visions was a valley of dry bones, where he beheld an entire valley full of human bones, and he watched as those bones came to life, as flesh grew upon the arms and the legs, and muscle developed, and he was asked, is this possible? Can these bones come back to life? Another vision he had was of strange angelic beings that he saw in the nighttime sky whenever he looked to the north. And in the north, he saw some sort of cataclysmic event that was described. We're going to go over that story, check it out, and I'm going to present a theory that I have. It's a theory as seen through more of an electric universe perspective, right? About what these angelic beings are or what they were. And will we see them again? Can we see them again? And do people see them now? Are people starting to see what some call UFOs or others call angels whenever we take a look at Ezekiel's wheels? Thanks for joining me. All right, cool. So this is, I'm going to show a couple of pictures over here. We've talked about, this is a drawing of Ezekiel's vision that he saw. He was given a vision by God. He was told that the city of Jerusalem, not the modern city of where it is today, I believe it was actually located in a different place at the time, but the city of Jerusalem, as depicted back here in the background, would be under siege. That the people had all gone astray, that the morality was in decline, and so they were going to be judged by God. And so God gave a vision, and he allowed Ezekiel to witness some strange events. This is a drawing of some of the things he saw as he received this message. He saw this class of angelic creature right over here. These are called cherubim or cheruvim. They are also known as the covering angels. The covering angels I have done a video about, and if you look at my Plasma Apocalypse playlist or my Ancient Oblivion playlist, it should be there, and it's got a picture of sprites on it. So I make the case that these cherubim are actually sprites, gigantic sprites that existed high up in the atmosphere during a time whenever our atmosphere was electrically charged. I believe we go back and forth, that it's a cycle that goes back and forth between a period where the Earth's atmosphere is electrically charged and amplified, and people see wonderful and mysterious spirits and creatures and ghosts, and they're described in all these different ways, angels and demons, a time of magic. And then we go to the time we live in now, a time of energetic charge, where that charge is siphoned down into the heart of the earth, and we don't experience these visions as Ezekiel once did. So we have covered the cherubim in great detail in the past. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to the Ophanim. We're going to take a look at these choir of angels. A choir of angels is sort of a biblical way of saying a class, a classification, or a type of angelic creature. This is typically how they're drawn based on the description given in the Bible in the book of Ezekiel by the prophet. Now keep in mind, whenever we read this account, we're reading, well, let's suppose that we're reading from someone who had no idea what this actually was, the science behind it. And they were trying to describe it the best way they could. So that they often describe it in a way that I call it cartoonification. So for example, we have an eyeball right here in the middle. We have these rings that sort of move about, or rings within rings, wheels within wheels. And attached to all of these rings or wheels, we have all of these little tiny eyeballs. These eyes are covering this thing. So this is actually this is depicted traditionally as a good spirit, although it looks like something out of a horror movie or a cosmic horror or something. This is a good protective spirit. I'll explain to you my theory as to why it's a protective, good spirit that represents good energy, or a good angel that would seek out those who are evil and destroy them. Here are some other depictions of what these Ophanim, this is what they're called. We'll break down that word too here in just a minute. So the other angels were called cherubim. That im at the end is just plural. So the Opha, or the Ophanim, the Ophan, were described as these wheels. Now, their location was always oriented directly under the cherubim, which are these ones, which are I believe are sprites that have the branches that go up, and then the branches that go down with a little Z-pinch action right there in the middle. That these wheels, these Ophanim. I mean, why would an angel, these angels, sometimes angels are drawn in many different ways. Oftentimes they've been cartoonified to look human, or they look like us. That's us projecting ourselves upon the ancient stories. But these are described in a way that people couldn't possibly misinterpret them as being human-like or looking like human. They were described as wheels within wheels, and they were always underneath these ones. So oftentimes they were given the name thrones, or seats, or a seat where they would ride, or a vehicle that these other angelic beings were always on top of. I believe it's electromagnetic phenomenon that's being described to us. In the book of Ezekiel, he describes that in this vision he saw, right? First and foremost, he looks to the north. And if you follow my channel, I talk often about the plasma apocalypse, which kicks off at the North Pole, or above the North Pole. There's a lot of action that happens up there in the north. And I just finished my new book, Return to Hyperborea, which is all about the land at the North Pole, the paradise, Hyperborea, and the Garden of Eden. So check that out when you have a chance. But these are some artist renditions of what Ezekiel may have seen just as people draw it. They draw these wheels within wheels. They draw the cherubim. This one actually has what looks like electricity running back and forth between these two cherubim, or these cherubs, you could say. And then there's a glass on top of it. He says that whenever he looked above these cherubim, that he saw what looked like a sea of glass, or a glass covering, or some sort of expanse made out of glass. Now, I've also postulated that the dome, or the firmament, especially in regards to these ancient belief systems, that it's not made out of glass, as in melted sand, but that it's made out of hardened water or ice, that it's an ice dome. So we have these different images and imagery. Now, it's also said that above this sea of glass, or this expanse of glass, which I believe is the firmament, that Ezekiel looked up and he saw a throne, another throne that was up there above him, which I believe this picture right here would actually be the reverse. This throne should be upside down, because it would be under the firmament, if this is the firmament itself. And keep in mind, I did a video about the firmament, a couple of them lately, on my Ancient Oblivion and Plasma Apocalypse playlists, talking about the composition of the firmament. How is it created? What is it made out of? What is its purpose? We really go into great detail about that, but one of the things that we discussed was the theory that if the firmament was glass or ice or some sort of reflective material, that it would reflect the earth below it. Whenever we have these terrestrial beams of earth energy that shoot up, these poles and pillars that appear to reach up to the very heavens and hold up the sky to keep the sky from crashing down onto people, which was an ancient belief the world across. That those lights, those earthly lights that shot up into the heavens, which we don't have now, but we will in the next cycle, that they illuminated the firmament, which caused a reflection of the land below it, which allowed ancient cartographers to simply look up and map out the very world that they lived upon, the surface world. Let's check out Ezekiel's story now. Now, I'm going to come to this 4 wheels section. First, I want to start at the beginning. This is from Ezekiel chapter 1 in the Bible. And I'm going to start with, let's see, we're going to go, here we go. So I'm going to skip around a little bit. It says, in the 30th year, on the 5th day of the 4th month, while I was among the exiles of the river Kavar. And you can check out some of my other videos. I discussed the exile. There's an exodus and there's a return to Hyperborea, to the Garden of Eden. That's why there's this cycle of people getting kicked out of the garden and people returning to the garden. And speaking of the Garden of Eden, there was also a cherubim that was guarding the Garden of Eden. We've talked about that too. It says that the heavens opened. The heavens opened. That's how this whole vision kicks off. The sky opening up. The heavens opened. The firmament cracking open. The sky falling. And I saw visions of God. That word God right there is Elohim. So it's a plural form of the word Eloah, which is where we get hello, and aloha, which means strength or much strength. Strong ones, the El or the Elohim. Now, he goes on to talk about this vision that he saw with these 4 living creatures. I looked and I saw a whirlwind. This is a tempest, a world storm, coming from the north. That's where it happens. That's the depressurization of the firmament begins, or the atmosphere begins with the cracking open of the firmament at the apex, or the very center portion, which is directly below, above the North Pole, if you have more of a plane of existence perspective. He says, a whirlwind coming from the north, a great cloud with fire flashing back and forth. Now that ancient word fire was light. They were one and the same. So with light flashing back and forth, and brilliant light all around it. So he looks to the north. He sees that there's this whirlwind way off into the north, and a great cloud. This is reminiscent of the pillar of light by night and the pillar of smoke, or whatever it was, the cloud by day, that the Hebrews followed whenever they were leaving, whenever they were going through their own exodus, right, from Egypt. In the center of the fire was a gleam like amber, a golden glow. Right? So let me refer us back to this video over here. Hey, Dragonfly58, just subscribed. Welcome to my channel. Right on. That's good to see people subscribing. All right, let's get back to the story. So he saw this golden glow, this beam of light that shot up into the heavens. And this has happened over and over again, not just in Ezekiel's time. This is recorded throughout ancient history. One of the more notable times from, more modern period. It's not really modern, but it's the sacking of Jerusalem. This happened again. Another strange sight was seen in the heavens right above Jerusalem. If you look up Josephus's Antiquities of the Jews and other ancient historic accounts about the sacking of Jerusalem, about close to 2,000 years ago, they described celestial phenomenon. What looked like chariots going back and forth, and war in the heavens was taking place, and what appeared to be some sort of giant sword stuck in the sky, a beam of light, a pillar of light. So he talks about this brilliant pillar of light, and he says, in the center of the fire was a gleam like amber, and within it was the form of 4 living creatures. It goes on to say this was their appearance. They had a human form. Now he'll start to describe the cherubim, so we're going to skip past the cherubim, and we're really going to focus on the next creatures that he saw existing underneath these cherubim, right? He says, when I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature with its 4 faces. The workmanship of the wheels looked like the gleam of beryl. So it has a light, it's emanating light, it's glowing. And all 4 of these had the same exact likeness. Their workmanship looked like a wheel within a wheel. So now we have more of a description happening of what it is that he's looking at. Now, remember, if he's looking at the transient luminous event known as sprites up in the sky, but these, under an electrically amplified atmosphere, those sprites wouldn't just be quick flashes like they are today. They would stay. They would be there, and they would look like heavenly angels or beings or some sort of gods or demons or something that's hovering up there in the sky that's clearly has great power. As they moved, now he's going to discuss the movement of these wheels within wheels, and then we'll take a closer look at them. As they moved, they went in any of 4 directions. Hold on, let me check the chat, make sure everybody can hear me. All right, cool. I don't see any complaints in the chat. Looks pretty good. You guys, give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me, and I'll check on it here in just a second. Let's continue on. As they moved, they went in any of 4 directions without pivoting as they moved. Their rims were high and awesome. These were really large wheels, whatever they were. And all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. So more little circular things that to him looked like eyes. So as the living creatures moved, the wheels moved beside them. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose up from the ground. So they're connected. Whatever these are, these cherubim, which I believe are sprites, they're connected to this other transient luminous event that's underneath them. We'll see in a minute what they are. So the wheels followed these cherubims. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go. And the wheels would rise alongside them because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When the creatures moved, the wheels moved. When the creatures stood still, the wheels stood still. See, Knight, welcome to my channel. And when the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose alongside them because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Now, this is interesting. I'm just going to read a little bit further because this talks about the pictures we just went over. Spread out above the heads of the living creatures was the likeness of an awesome expanse, gleaming like crystal. That's where you get the firmament description in there. But let's take a look at these wheels within wheels. What is the Hebrew word for wheels? If you look it up in Hebrew, it's this word. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger for everybody. Now, oh, I cannot. Okay, well, we'll make it as big as we can there. This word right here, opan or ophan. It's more like that PH sound, like a phone or phoenix. Opan. It's the opan or the opanim in the plural, and it means wheel, right? So this is interesting. Let's take a look. Let's take a closer look at these opan. This is how they're typically drawn, these wheels within wheels that have eyes all the way around them. This is the ophan or the wheels. Now, I believe that the word ophan is directly related to our word open, to open up, to move something out of the way. Also, the word fan, to move around in a circular-like fashion. Now, it says here, regarding the Ophan, or the Ophanim, the thrones, also known as Ophanim, or the Galgal, or the Galgalin, are creatures that function as the actual chariots of God, driven by the cherubs. So these hearken to many other stories that don't necessarily describe wheels within wheels the way Ezekiel does, but we do have prophets that discussed chariots of fire, or these light chariots, which I'll show you an actual example of here in just a minute. Actual chariots of God driven by the cherubs. The cherubs are always on top of these electromagnetic phenomenon. They are characterized by peace and submission. They're positive. They're seen as carrying a positive charge, basically. God rests upon them. Thrones are depicted as great wheels containing many eyes, and they reside in the area of the cosmos where material form begins to take shape. Also, possibly plasma, which can take the shape of all the different material forms. They chant glorias to God and remain forever in his presence. This is why they're known as choirs of angels, right? So let's say it's electromagnetic phenomenon, right? We've got these plasmoids or ball lightning, which I'll make the case here in just a bit. It's electricity. Electricity, especially whenever it's a powerful form of electricity and it's much larger and much more powerful, that really high-pitched buzzing sound that we hear on a quick scale is amplified, it's lowered, and it sounds like singing. It sounds like vocal cords. It sounds like audio in the air because it makes its own crackling and noises and stuff. But whenever it's that large, it doesn't sound to us like electricity would. It sounds more like rushing water or voices, which is how it's often described in the Bible as well. All right, let's get back over to this description, and then I'm going to show you guys some of what I believe are examples, real time, today, examples of these glowing plasmoid Ophanim spheres. Now, this is really interesting too. Actually, yeah, let me get back to this. Where was that article I was at? Oh, yes, they chant glorious to God. So these angels are choirs. They sing. And it's really interesting because in researching the land at the North Pole over by Mount Meru, I've had story after story where people said they heard singing to the north, that they could hear songs being sung in the north. And it might not be from humans or people that were singing, but from electromagnetic buildup and phenomenon that people didn't know what it was at the time, just strong electrical charges. This is also why so many supernatural events where people have seen ghosts by creeks and rivers, banshees, crying ghosts, ghosts that are weeping, ghosts that make sound and noise. Electricity can also emulate that and do that. Now, it says that these particular classes of angels, they met out divine justice and maintain the cosmic harmony of all universal laws. These are very similar to, in Norse mythology, we have the Valkyries. The Valkyries went out and they decided who would live and who would die. I believe, or it stands to reason for me, that electromagnetic phenomena such as cosmic plasma that comes into our world, or terrestrial plasma, that it sees, it has a way of seeing in the electromagnetic spectrum. And therefore, especially whenever we live under conditions that amplify our very souls, our chakras, our points of energy in and within and around our body, that if we were able to see and experience an atmosphere that was electromagnetically amplified and charged, that those entities, those wonderful serpents, as they're sometimes described whenever they're more elongated, or these plasmoids, these plasma balls, these wheels and Ophanim, that they would be able to feel different electromagnetic charges of individuals and places and stuff, and then therefore they would be able to see who was carrying a negative charge and a positive charge. We'll come back to that. Now, if we look at the actual root of the word, it comes from pana. So Opana means strong pana. That word, that first letter, the aleph, let me show you here real quick. So this first letter, where did I put that? Oh, here it is. So you see this first letter right here? That's aleph. That weird looking X letter or whatever. That is that's an ox head, and it means very strong. So at the beginning of a word, it implies that whatever is after it is very strong. Okay? So a very strong, and then pana means turning, as we saw here. Here it goes. It means to turn. Pana means to turn. So strong turnings. This thing's revolving and moving about, and it's constantly turning. It's turning in on itself, I believe, because it's a toroidal field. These are self-contained toroidal fields, as I'll show you in a moment, and they create their own magnetism. And because they're repelled by a magnetic force, being plasma, they repel against themselves and contain themselves so that they don't just dissipate in the atmosphere. They can dissipate, but they can also retain their shape. All right, let's get back over here to this description. So pana means to turn. The Ophanim, often referred to as wheels or throne, are a class of angels described in Jewish angelic hierarchy. Beside the book of Ezekiel, they're mentioned in a few other places within religious texts and traditions. In the book of Daniel, although not explicitly named as the Ophanim, the imagery of the divine chariot and wheels, we're going to take a look at these chariots here, can be found in Daniel 7:9, where the thrones are set up and the Ancient of Days takes his seat. The passage is often associated with the vision of the heavenly court, which can be linked to the concept of the Ophanim. In 1st Enoch, the book of Enoch, particularly the sections known as the Book of the Watchers, mentions various classes of angels, including the Ophanim. The Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish religious work, and it elaborates on angelic hierarchies and roles of different types of angels. Within Kabbalistic texts, we have the Jewish mysticism. Particularly in Kabbalistic tradition, the Ophanim are often discussed in works such as the Zohar, which is an interesting word in itself because the Zohar implies bright or shining. They are described as the wheels of the chariot or the Merkabah in the heavenly realms, and they're considered to be among the highest order of angels. Also within Talmudic and Midrashic literature, we find various rabbinic writings and commentaries that refer to the Ophanim, describing their roles and functions in the divine order. These texts provide interpretations and expansions on the biblical reference to these beings. So, they're not unknown. People have understood them for quite some time now. Pardon me. Let's take a look at this. The Ophanim. It goes on to say, spheres. This is another thing that they're considered and regarded as. They're considered and regarded as spheres, not just like a wagon wheel, although sometimes they're depicted as such, but they are orbs They are balls of energy, energetic balls. We call these plasmoids. We'll take a look at that in here in a minute. More commonly, they're called ball lightning, which people are seeing more and more of now these days. Spheres, wheels, whirlwinds as well. These refer to the wheels seen in Ezekiel's vision of the chariot. I think we've kind of covered all of this already. I just wanted to point out that they're also regarded as spheres. Now, take a look at this chart right here. This is a chart of various transient luminous events. This basically all that means is strange lights in the sky. Transient luminous event. Transient means they're usually quick flashes. They don't stay in the sky. But if we were to amplify, or if Mother Nature or God or whatever was to suddenly amplify the atmosphere electrically, then it makes it very possible for everything you see here. This is lightning down at the bottom. That's just what we are typically normally see. But above those clouds, there's angelic processes going on. If you amplify the atmosphere with electricity, then these can stay. They don't just flash and disappear and go away, but they appear, they like ghosts, and they hover around and they move about, and people watch them and they watch out for them and they get out of the way. There's different ones. Let's count them. Halo, ghosts, elves, which are these giant halos up here, sprites, which we've gone over, secondary jets, blue starters, blue jets, which are akin to the blue beams of plasma that I discussed, and gigantic jets. Now, these gigantic jets are whenever the blue jet continues up and it just keeps on going. That charge doesn't stop. When it keeps on going all the way up, it connects sprites to jets and then more so. Right? There's more than just that. But let's count how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, there's 9 choirs of angels. So I wonder if we're missing one. And we don't see anything that looks like balls. If we do some more investigations, we find there is another class right here next to me. See that right down there? Pixies. Pixies are these little plasmoids, these balls that show up just above the clouds, sometimes within the clouds. Oftentimes, you'll see videos of them if you research things like this on social media. People are posting videos of ball lightning usually immediately after a lightning strike that charges up the surrounding atmosphere and creates all these instabilities. And then sometimes, on occasion, you have ball lightning just turn on, manifest. Sometimes it'll fly out real quick. Sometimes it'll just, move real slowly across. But that's what we're missing. Now we have 9 classes of transient luminous events, or angels. Now, let me show you an example. Okay, I can't vouch for if this is a real video or not. It feels real to me. It looks real to me. I've shared this video many times before on my channel, but this is taken from inside of a car. There's a storm happening off in the distance. So imagine this is more of a modern version of what Ezekiel saw when he looked out to the north. All right, just check and make sure everything's good over here. Oh, I got a donation. Who's that? Lake Superior Skywatcher. Hey, thank you for your donation in the chat. I appreciate it. All right, let me jump back over to this video and let's check this out. Now, I'm going to show you, this person is parked on the side of the road. There's a storm directly in front of them, and there's what appears to be all of these plasmoids racing back and forth on their courses, following the electromagnetic current that's in that area. Watch how they interact with one another as they move about. And keep in mind the stories, both historic and biblical, and other references as well, of these chariots and these war in the heavens as all these, heavenly beings fought against each other. Oh, I also want you to pay attention to this too. I'm actually playing this at 0.25 times the speed. I'm going to play it fast in a minute. Look at the shapes, because some of these shapes that they take look like things that are symbolized in movies to represent these beings of power. For example, here you can clearly see what looks like a duck. Over here, this could be interpreted as a rabbit. Ducks and rabbits. This also gets into the holiday of Easter, why people celebrated Easter at this particular time, why it's associated with the breath of God, allowing people to communicate in the same language, and ghosts rising around this time, and all of this is connected. Now, check this out. I'm going to play it in normal speed the first go around here. All right, here we go. Now, you can imagine, hold on, I got to rewind it now. So, these are all of those chariots. the chariots of fire, moving back and forth, going to, it appears like maybe they're going to war with one another. They can move all at the same time. They can stop. They follow each other. They can merge with one another because they're plasma. Look at this. Now check that out. Now that one even looked like it was flapping wings. Watch, there's one that goes from here to here. It almost looks like those ostriches in that old video game called Joust. Watch, check this out. Let's play it in slow motion. All right, I'm going to play this back at 0.25 the speed, which is the only time I ever do this when I watch YouTube videos. Usually I watch everything at 2 times the speed. Now, sometimes they look like whales in the sky. It all depends on the person's perspective. However, they filter that through their perception filters. They'll interpret it if they don't know exactly what it is and why it's doing. That one looks like it's flapping and moving across like an ostrich or something. You see that one? Anyways, these things are going back and forth, and there's historic records where people, not just in the Bible, not just in religious texts, but historians have pointed these things out and said that people saw these, thousands of people saw these, especially the siege on Jerusalem. And you can see some of them look like rabbits. Sometimes they have like sort of a cat look to them. There's lightning that's coming out and shooting all over the place. This is the description that we were given by Ezekiel. Now, we'll move on. Here's another example. This is from a video called Understanding Plasmoids. This is what people typically see today under the atmospheric conditions that we live in. We just have like a ball of lightning, and then it has all this electrical charge coming off of it. Oh, now I want to focus your attention real quick on this man named Winston H. Bostick, or Bostick. Now, Bostick was a plasma physicist. He came up with many different theories about plasma, plasmoids, and how they work. That although he went to a prestigious university, it was very much like the case of Immanuel Velikovsky, where whenever he came up with ideas and theories that went against the mainstream academic narrative, that he was shunned and people didn't consider his work. However, it's coming full circle because his work so many years ago is now relevant to these transient luminous events and strange sightings that people are seeing. Let me read this. In 1956, Bostick demonstrated the existence of plasmoids. I'll check those out in a second. Force-free charge-carrying strings. 10 years later, he postulated an electron composed of helical plasmoids forming vortex loops around a ring, similar to the Parson magneton. So keep in mind, this is discussing things on a very small scale, but the small scale can just be made larger, and we can see the small scale and the big. So he postulated an electron composed of helical plasmoids forming vortex loops, spinning loops or wheels around a ring, another wheel, right? Let's check this out. Now, here's an example of how this works, right? You've got a natural plasmoid produced in the near-Earth magnetotail by magnetic reconnection. Now, this is just a chart, and I'm going to show you this for a reason, right? The plasmoid happens when you have these instabilities, these currents that move off and they circle around, and then that circle creates a magnetic field that traps the plasma inside of it. So it's self-contained, basically. Now, if we take this exact same chart that shows this plasmoid off here to the side, and we superimpose this right here, let's pretend like this is the Earth. What would this be over here? Now remember, the sun and the moon were described in the Bible as luminaries. So here's a close-up picture of that an artist or a photographer took of sprites. These are the sprites. You can see you could imagine how they would look like heavenly beings, especially if they were even more powerful. This is just the perfect timing that this person happened to snap this picture. You can see it goes down and it sort of has legs down there at the bottom with these blue jets, right? Or purple, sometimes they're different colors. This is also helps to explain why the phoenix, whenever it was seen in the sky, was a harbinger of cataclysmic events and world-changing events and changing of times and calendar systems and stuff. This is why the phoenix was multiple colors, because there's different layers of gases all throughout the atmosphere up there. Down lower, it's more homogeneous, but as you go up higher, these gases start to layer themselves out. So if you shoot electricity, terrestrial electricity from the earth straight up into the air, and it's powerful enough to make it to the highest parts of the atmosphere, you should see it spread out just like you see here, and that will be like these aura wings, and there will be different colors all across. Ingrid, aka She-Wolf, has just become a channel member. Good to see you, Ingrid. Now let's go back to that chart, right? I superimposed the earth over here, and then the moon would be just right here as a plasmoid, as it should be. Not as a rock, not as some planet or something, but as a luminary, as it has been described time and time again. I also found this really interesting video. This is from a channel called Alchemical Science. This is the only one I saw of that channel, but he talks about plasmoids. It's called Introduction to Plasmoids, Ball Lightning, and Thunderstorms. Now he begins by discussing, in this is way at the end of the video, but he talks about these toroidal fields. They look like donuts. They're rings of energy that are self-contained. But he talks about plasmoids and how the plasmoids stack upon one another, creating these toroidal fields that lock in the larger rings. So at the small scale, this is infinite as well, by the way. So we have these really tiny toroidal fields that wrap around these bigger rings, exactly as it was described over here earlier, where we talked about this plasma physicist who postulated an electron that's composed of helical plasmoids forming vortex loops around a ring. That's exactly what we have here in the image that's presented by this other YouTuber. These are Ezekiel's wheels. These are rings within rings, or wheels within wheels. This right here is a drawing cartoon version of this video that I created, showing you an example of what that might look like in real time, in the real world that we live in, right? Different versions of it. Now, here's an actual video that I posted this. It's a GIF that I posted in my community section. These are not stars. These are not really far away. These are nearby objects that someone was filming, and in her actual video, you can hear her say, "Oh my God, look at that." And she zooms into them and stuff. But you can see when she zooms in that there are wheels or rings within wheels. Interesting, right? So you can imagine if you got close up, it might look something more like this. Or maybe something that looks more like this, right? So here's another example. This one is from the Thunderbolts project. This is just a still frame. Michael Armstrong's UFO, plasma phenomenon, and the Thunderbolts. I highly recommend this channel if you're interested in this type of material, understanding what's known as the electric universe concept. In this video, he makes a presentation. He shows this whole compilation of these ball lightning instances or plasmoids, and how people mistake them for UFOs because they can change direction to 90 degrees, and physical objects would not be able to do that. Sometimes they're just lights. I don't want to minimize it. They're lights. They're plasma in the sky. Now, I asked ChatGPT over here about pixies. I asked if it was familiar with the concept of pixies, which we discussed, which are those little plasmoids at the bottom, which are the Ophanim. Pixies, Ophanim, same thing to me. Now it says, yes, I'm familiar with the transient luminous events known as pixies. Pixies are small, brief flashes of light that occur at high altitudes in the Earth's atmosphere. They're a part of the broader category of upper atmospheric lightning, which includes other phenomena such as sprites, blue jets, elves, etc. Pixies are typically observed in the mesosphere. They're thought to be related to electric discharge of thunderstorms, as we see with ball lightning accounts. So what type of charge do these things carry? If these are the angel class that are known as being the protectors and defenders of all things righteous and good, what kind of a charge do they carry? Are they negatively charged, like lightning? Or are they positively charged? And if we equate, let's just for a moment speculate, right? Let's be philosophers. If we equate negative charge with negativity or evil, and positivity with a positive charge or goodness, let's see what it says. Pixies, as a type of transient luminous events, are small-scale, high-altitude electrical discharges. They typically carry a positive charge. Pixies are often associated with the tops of thunderstorms and are part of the complex electrical environment. Now, the bottom of the thunderstorm or the thundercloud is negatively charged. So that's why we get lightning popping off, because there's the positive charge of the earth below, the negative charge that's at the bottom of that cloud. But on the top of that cloud is a lot of positive charge. It goes on to say, I ask it, what type of charge would a positively charged being like a pixie be attracted to? Pixies, carrying a positive charge, like the Valkyries, would be attracted to areas with a negative charge. So if we equate positive charge to positive people or angels or whatnot, and negative charge to negative entities or evil people or beings or demons or whatever, then you can see why they would clash. They would fight because positive and negative electromagnetically are attracted to one another, right? So these would be able to read people's auras and follow after a person. Possibly, I'm just throwing this out there. It's a theory that I have, that people who are charged negatively or evil people, whenever the apocalypse comes, that these angels, which are cartoonified as Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, the Blob, and other types of fictitious characters or whatever, that they would be able to follow after these evil people, chasing after them, when in reality they're just going about their natural business and they're just attracted to them, right? They want to go near to them, but whenever they touch, they zap them, electrocute them, and those people are removed. These are seen as the protecting angels of the Lord. And that is our presentation for today on Ezekiel's wheels, plasmoids, ball lightning, and much more. For more information, go check out my playlist, where I covered the cherubim, my whole plasma apocalypse playlist, and ancient Oblivion. Also, if you're interested in the relationship between the cyclical apocalypse and these types of electrical phenomenon or phoenix events or plasmoids and angels or the Garden of Eden, I have a book called Ancient Oblivion, the Plasma Apocalypse, and I wrote a sequel, Ancient Oblivion, Return to Hyperborea. Those are available on Amazon right now. Soon they'll be available for direct purchase from me. Just check the community section. And also check out my website, because I've got lots of great visual and audio examples of these types of subjects and much more. Thanks for listening to my theories and ideas. I'm JayDreamerZ. Until next time, good vibes and goodbye.